where time seems to stand still. NASA has released satellite images. They capture the
nuclear-powered submarine
in the Sahara Desert.
The Sahara Desert is one of the most awe-inspiring landscapes on Earth. It's a place of endless sand dunes, scorching heat, and mysteries buried beneath its vast expanse.
The entire thing is basically an active excavation site.
And with so many secrets hidden in its sands, it's no surprise that some remarkably unusual and fascinating things have been unearthed there. These are the 20 strangest things found in the Sahara. Number 20. Eye of the Sahara. The Eye of the Sahara is one of the most surreal natural formations on the planet. From the ground, it's an impressive sight, but from space, it's something else entirely. A massive, nearly perfect circular structure that looks like a giant eye gazing back at us. And it's no optical illusion. This massive expanse stretches 50 kilometers across, making it one of the few geological wonders clearly visible from orbit. When something this enormous and out of place appears in the middle of a desert, theories start flying. Some thought it was the lost city of Atlantis. Others suggested it was the scar of a massive meteor impact. The real answer? Scientists determined it's an uplifted geologic dome. Millions of years of wind, water, and erosion peeling back the layers of sedimentary rock to reveal what we see today. The Sahara wasn't always an endless stretch of sand. It was once lush, full of lakes, rivers, and thriving life. This ancient world left behind more than just rock formations, and the more we dig, the more we uncover about its incredible past. In the heart of this vast desert, forensic investigators discovered a lone submarine. Sounds impossible, but that's exactly what was found. A missing submarine somehow surfaced in the Sahara, miles away from any ocean. No one knows how it got there, and no clear explanation has ever been given. Maybe it drifted into legend before the desert decided to spit it back out. Not all of the Sahara's mysteries are man-made. Some are the result of cosmic forces so powerful they reshaped the landscape itself. Number 19. Libyan Desert Glass. 29 million years ago, an explosion hotter than molten lava turned parts of the Sahara into glass. Libyan desert glass, scattered across the sands of modern Libya and Egypt, is a geological anomaly and evidence of one of the most extreme natural events in Earth's history. This strange yellow-green glass has puzzled scientists for decades. Some thought it was formed by volcanic activity, others suggested a massive lightning strike. But the most debated theory? A catastrophic explosion, either from a meteorite slamming into the Earth or an airburst, where a space rock detonates in the atmosphere before impact. The truth was finally uncovered when traces of rhyolite, a high-pressure mineral that only forms in the aftermath of a massive impact, were discovered within the glass. That means whatever happened here wasn't just an ordinary collision. A meteorite hit the Sahara with such force that it liquefied the sand, creating temperatures over 1600 degrees Celsius, hotter than volcanic lava, and transforming the desert floor into glass. Even more fascinating? This glass has been prized by humans for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians saw something special in it, so special that a carved Libyan desert glass scarab was found in Tutankhamun's tomb. Some believe early civilizations used it to craft tools during the Pleistocene epoch. Today, these scattered fragments remain largely untouched, lying where they formed millions of years ago. But scientists still don't know exactly where the impact crater is. If a meteorite impact wasn't strange enough, the Sahara holds another shocker: fossilized sea creatures buried deep in the desert, miles from any ocean. Number 18. Desert Whale Graveyard. A whale graveyard in the middle of the desert sounds impossible, until you remember the Sahara wasn't always a sea of sand. Hidden deep in Egypt's Wadi Hitan, also known as the Valley of the Whales, lies the largest collection of ancient whale fossils ever discovered. Around 1,000 whale skeletons have been uncovered here, and these aren't just fragments. They're full skeletons, some stretching over 50 feet long. Even more bizarre, these aren't the whales we know today. These fossils belong to Basilosaurus and Dorudon, early whales that still had vestigial hind limbs. That's right, millions of years ago, whales had legs. So how did a massive pod of whales end up fossilized in the middle of the desert? 40 million years ago, this region was covered by the Tethys Sea, a shallow, warm ocean teeming with marine life. But over time, shifting continents and climate change caused the sea to recede, transforming the ocean floor into a forest and eventually into the Sahara Desert. The whales that once swam here were trapped and died, and over millions of years, their skeletons were preserved beneath layers of sand and rock. What makes Wadi Hitan even more significant is what it reveals about evolution. These fossils capture a crucial phase in the transition of whales from land-dwelling creatures to fully aquatic animals. The presence of hind limbs on Basilosaurus shows that whales were still in the process of shedding their terrestrial ancestry. Today, Wadi Hitan is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, preserving a moment in time when the desert was an ocean and land-dwelling mammals were just beginning their transformation into the rulers of the sea. Just as the Sahara's fossils reveal a world that no longer exists, its ancient rock art captures the lives of the people who once thrived in this vanished landscape. Number 17. Saharan rock art. Scattered across the Sahara are paintings and carvings left behind by early civilizations, some dating back as far as 12,000 years. These tell stories of how people lived, what they hunted, and even the animals that once roamed the Sahara that looked nothing like the desert we see today. One of the most famous examples is the Dabus giraffes, massive 6-meter-tall carvings etched into rock, proving that this region was once home to wildlife that couldn't survive there now. Other rock paintings depict cattle herding, hunting scenes, and even human figures adorned with ceremonial attire. They show a time when the Sahara was lush, filled with lakes and grasslands, supporting complex societies that relied on its resources. But the harsh reality is that much of this ancient art is disappearing. Natural erosion, shifting sands, and even human interference have worn away countless images that may have held crucial pieces of history. As the Sahara reveals traces of its ancient inhabitants through rock art, it also guards deeper mysteries, structures carved in stone, their purpose lost to time. Number 16. Stone structures. The Sahara is no stranger to stone structures. After all, civilizations have used stone to build everything from pyramids to temples. But in 2019, archaeologists uncovered something unexpected in the Western Sahara. Not towering monuments, but hundreds of small, deliberately arranged stone formations spread across the desert. Some were shaped like crescents, others formed perfect circles, and some were arranged in straight lines or rectangular platforms. One structure stretched an astonishing 630 meters in length, hinting at a level of planning and purpose far beyond simple rock stacking. So what were they for? That's the mystery. Some researchers suspect they were ancient burial markers, while others suggest they could have been linked to long-lost cultural or religious practices. The lack of any written records or known historical references to these formations only deepens the enigma. What's clear is that whoever built them went to great effort to shape and place these stones, and the structures have survived the relentless winds and shifting sands of the Sahara for centuries, if not millennia. Mysterious stone formations are one thing, but the next discovery takes us to an ancient burial where status and tradition were unexpectedly overturned. Number 15. Funeral boat. Burial traditions have always reflected status, elaborate tombs for rulers and humble graves for commoners. But archaeologists in Egypt discovered something that broke this pattern. A luxurious funeral boat buried alongside a man who, by all accounts, wasn't born into nobility. The boat, made from high-quality wood that was rare and expensive in ancient Egypt, was found in a necropolis reserved for the elite of the First Dynasty. In Egyptian belief, boats were more than just symbols of power. They were meant to transport the dead into the afterlife. Only pharaohs and high-ranking officials received such honors, which raised an obvious question. How did a so-called commoner get the kind of burial reserved for Egypt's ruling class? Further investigation revealed that while his origins may have been humble, he rose to prominence as a high official under the rule of one of Egypt's early kings. His service must have been significant enough for the pharaoh himself to grant him a burial worthy of royalty. A funeral boat buried in the desert is strange enough, but the next discovery takes us even further back. Number 14. The fossil forest. The Sahara was once a lush green paradise, and the proof is literally set in stone. Fossil forests scattered across the desert, like the one between Ubari and a few other spots in Libya. These trees are petrified, frozen in time, with massive trunks still standing tall, some reaching up to 20 meters. Fossil forests aren't unique to the Sahara. You'll find them in places like England and even underwater in the Gulf of Mexico. But the Sahara's version is special because it tells a story of dramatic change. These trees are remnants of a time when the Sahara was a verdant landscape, crisscrossed with rivers and teeming with life. Think of it as the Amazon of North Africa, complete with forests, wildlife, and even early human settlements. So, what happened? How did this green oasis turn into the world's largest hot desert? The answer lies in Earth's ever-shifting climate. Around 11,000 years ago, the Sahara experienced a period called the African Humid Period, when monsoon rains transformed the region into a fertile haven. But by about 5,000 years ago, the climate shifted again. The rains retreated, temperatures rose, and the land dried out. Over centuries, the lush greenery gave way to the endless dunes we see today. The Sahara's transformation holds clues about how climate change can reshape entire ecosystems. Studying these fossil forests helps scientists piece together the timeline of the Sahara's desertification and understand the forces that drove it. If ancient fossilized trees prove the Sahara was once full of life, the next discovery is even more shocking. Number 13. The Gafsa Lake. In 2014, something bizarre happened in the middle of the Sahara Desert. An entire lake appeared out of nowhere. One day, it was nothing but dry, sun-baked land. The next, a shimmering body of water stretched across the landscape. Locals were stunned. No rivers had overflowed, no rainfall had been recorded, and yet, there it was, deep, clear, and inviting. Dubbed Gafsa Lake, after the nearest town, the phenomenon was first discovered by shepherds, and word spread fast. Within days, people were swimming in it, diving off rocks, and enjoying this unexpected oasis. However, scientists had no immediate explanation for how it formed. Initial fears arose that the water could be toxic or even radioactive, given that the region has phosphate mines, which can leak harmful chemicals. But that didn't stop crowds from flocking to it. The lake was about 20 meters deep, which meant it wasn't just a shallow puddle, it was a full-fledged body of water that seemed to defy logic. The most widely accepted theory? A minor earthquake likely fractured underground rock, exposing a long buried water table. Once the seal was broken, pressurized groundwater rushed up, flooding the area. It wasn't magic, but it was rare, so rare that it's still being studied today. Over time, the water turned murky green, and the once vibrant swimming hole became stagnant, possibly contaminated. It was a reminder that the desert swallows everything. If a mysterious lake suddenly appearing wasn't strange enough, the next discovery is something even more puzzling. Number 12. Namib Fairy Circles. Scattered across the southern part of the Sahara are thousands of strange, circular patches of barren earth, perfectly spaced apart, stretching for miles. From the ground, they look like random bald spots in the landscape, but from above, they form an eerie pattern, as if something, natural or otherwise, carefully placed them there. These are fairy circles, one of the most baffling natural phenomena on the planet. For decades, scientists have tried to explain why these rings appear, and the theories are just as wild as the mystery itself. Some say termites are responsible for slowly clearing patches of vegetation as they burrow beneath the sand. Others believe it's the work of plants themselves, grasses competing for water in the harsh desert, forming circular zones where weaker plants die off, leaving behind the strange formations. But these circles aren't just random. Studies have shown they follow a pattern similar to cells in living organisms, or bubbles packed together in foam. That kind of symmetry isn't something you usually find in nature without a clear driving force. And despite extensive research, no single explanation fully accounts for their formation. Some regions have termites, others don't. Some circles appear in areas with plenty of plant life, while others form in near-barren landscapes. Whatever the cause, these formations have existed for centuries, baffling locals and scientists alike. Some indigenous groups even believe the circles are footprints of the gods. Mysterious circles in the desert hint at forces we don't fully understand, but the next discovery takes us to something far more tangible: traces of the people who once called this land home. Number 11. Stone Age skeletons. Human remains in the middle of the Sahara might sound unusual today, but thousands of years ago, this place wasn't an endless desert. It was a thriving landscape where people lived, hunted, and built entire communities. In 2013, archaeologists uncovered a Stone Age burial site in a rock shelter in Libya, revealing a stunning glimpse into that forgotten world. The site, used for nearly 4,000 years, held the remains of at least 20 individuals, mostly women and children. This was an intentional burial ground, suggesting deep cultural and spiritual practices among the people who lived there. The fact that the site remained untouched for millennia means scientists had a rare, undisturbed look at how early humans lived and died in what is now one of the harshest environments on Earth. But if people thrived in this region, what happened to them? The answer lies in the changing climate. Early humans hunted, gathered, and possibly even engaged in early forms of agriculture. But over time, a shift in the Earth's orbit led to gradual desertification. Ancient burial sites reveal how people once thrived in the Sahara, but the next discovery proves that even today, humans are finding ingenious ways to survive in this unforgiving landscape. Number 10. Sahara crop circles. Satellite images of the Sahara have revealed something strange: perfectly circular formations scattered across the desert. At first glance, they look eerily similar to the crop circles that have fueled conspiracy theories for years. But there's no farmland here, no crops to flatten. So what's going on? These aren't the work of extraterrestrials or secret desert rituals. They're actually the result of human ingenuity. An underground water extraction system tapping into the Nubian sandstone aquifer, one of the largest freshwater reserves beneath the desert. Farmers in these arid regions use center pivot irrigation, a technique that involves drilling deep into the aquifer and using rotating sprinklers to create circular patches of cultivated land. From space, these rings look unnatural against the barren desert, leading to all sorts of wild theories. But the reality is even more fascinating. This hidden water supply has sustained life in some of the driest parts of North Africa for thousands of years. Without it, entire communities wouldn't survive. The challenge now? The Sahara is expanding, and water extraction is depleting the aquifer faster than it can replenish. Some of these circles may one day be nothing more than dry, abandoned remnants of a battle against the desert itself. The Sahara's modern-day circles show how humans adapt to the desert, but the next discovery takes us back thousands of years. Number 9. Dabous giraffes. In the middle of the Sahara, where modern giraffes would struggle to survive, two massive carvings of these animals stand etched into rock, each an incredible 6 meters tall. Found in the Air Mountains of Niger, these petroglyphs aren't just random scratches on stone. They are among the largest and most detailed ancient rock carvings ever discovered, proof that long before the Sahara became an unforgiving desert, it was home to creatures that don't belong there today. The carvings, known as the Debout giraffes, are estimated to be at least 8 to 10,000 years old, dating back to a time when the Sahara was lush, filled with rivers, grasslands, and wildlife. Whoever created these masterpieces added intricate details, marking patterns on their skin and shaping their elongated necks with precision. But why giraffes? Some researchers believe these carvings may depict a now extinct subspecies that once roamed the region. Others suggest they symbolized power, guidance, or even a connection to the gods. The lack of fossil evidence for a distinct Sahara giraffe species leaves the mystery open-ended. But what is clear is that the people who lived here revered these creatures enough to carve them on a scale rarely seen in prehistoric art. Unlike the pyramids or ancient temples, these carvings weren't built to be seen by massive crowds. They were hidden in the landscape, meant for those who knew where to look, maybe a sacred site, a gathering place, or even an early form of storytelling. The ancient giraffe carvings hint at a world full of life, but the next discovery reveals a story of love, loss, and a final farewell buried beneath the sands. Number 8. Flowery Grave. The Sahara isn't exactly the first place you'd expect to find a graveyard, let alone one with traces of flowers. But in 2008, archaeologists uncovered a burial site unlike anything else in the desert, a 5,000-year-old grave holding the skeletons of a woman and 2 children, locked in an embrace. This discovery was made near Gobero, an area that was once home to a massive lake. The people who lived here, known as the Kifian, and later the Tenarians, were some of the last to witness the Sahara before it transformed into the barren expanse we know today. But here's what makes this burial so unique. Traces of flowers were found within the grave. It's rare enough to find ancient human remains so well preserved, but the presence of flowers suggests something more profound. It shows that even in prehistoric times, humans mourned their dead, honored them, and sent them off with care. The positioning of the skeletons makes it even more haunting. The woman and children were arranged in a way that suggests they were holding one another in their final moments. Whether this was symbolic or reflected the way they died remains unknown, but it paints a picture of deep human connection even in one of the most ancient civilizations. Gobero's cemetery is one of the oldest in the Sahara, revealing that this land was once home to thriving communities before the desert consumed it. But what if the desert was hiding something like a relic from the sea, lost for centuries in a place it should have never ended up in? Number 7. Gold-filled shipwreck. A shipwreck in the middle of the desert sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, but that's exactly what happened when archaeologists stumbled upon the remains of Bom Jesus, a Portuguese trading vessel that vanished in 1533. For nearly 500 years, no one knew what happened to it. Then, in 2008, its remains were uncovered in the shifting sands of the Namibian desert. The most bizarre part? It wasn't buried deep in the Sahara. It was found inland, yet still along the ancient coastline. The Namib Desert, one of the oldest deserts on Earth, had swallowed it whole. This particular stretch of coastline, known as the Skeleton Coast, has earned a deadly reputation. Brutal storms, dense fog, and treacherous currents have sent countless ships to their doom. But Bom Jesus wasn't just any wreck. As researchers began excavating, they made a discovery that set it apart from the rest, a literal treasure trove. Inside the wreck, they found 2,000 pure gold coins, untouched for centuries, along with tens of thousands of pounds of copper ingots. The ship had been carrying valuable cargo from Europe to India when disaster struck. It likely got caught in a violent storm, smashed against the rocky shore, and sank. Over time, the shifting desert sands preserved what the ocean had claimed, leaving it perfectly intact beneath the surface. This is the oldest known shipwreck ever discovered along Africa's Atlantic coast, and thanks to the dry desert conditions, much of its cargo was still in pristine condition. But this next discovery held something even more valuable: knowledge hidden for centuries. Number 6. The Dead Sea Scrolls. Few discoveries have rewritten history like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Found hidden in the caves of Qumran in the 1940s and 50s, these ancient texts contain some of the oldest known versions of biblical writings, shedding light on religious traditions, forgotten histories, and even texts that never made it into the modern Bible. Written on parchment and papyrus over 2,000 years ago, these scrolls include entire chapters and books, many of which match the Hebrew Bible nearly word for word. Others, however, reveal variations, lost scriptures, and even apocalyptic prophecies that were once studied by ancient Jewish sects. The level of preservation is astonishing. Despite spending centuries sealed away in caves, many of the texts remain readable, offering a direct link to the beliefs and culture of a civilization long gone. But here's where it gets interesting. Some scholars believe there could be more undiscovered scrolls hidden beneath the sands. The desert is full of forgotten caves, buried ruins, and lost settlements, making it entirely possible that more pieces of history are still waiting to be uncovered. But deep in the desert, something massive looms, defying time and explanation. Number 5. Ben Amara. Deep in the Sahara stands Ben Amara, a towering monolith rising almost 700 meters into the sky, the second largest of its kind in the world. It's a geological giant, untouched and mysterious, drawing travelers willing to brave the journey just to see it up close. Reaching Ben Amara isn't easy. There are no paved roads, no clear paths, just endless desert. You have to hire a guide, navigate the harsh terrain, and endure the brutal climate, all for a chance to stand before this colossal formation. And yet, people do it. Why? Maybe it's the challenge, maybe it's the sheer spectacle of seeing something so massive in the middle of nowhere. Whatever the reason, Ben Amara proves that some places don't need ruins or history to be legendary. Sometimes, just being there is enough. But buried beneath the sands, traces of ancient battles reveal a history of survival and conflict. Number 4. Ancient weaponry. The Sahara wasn't always an endless stretch of sand. It was once home to civilizations that thrived, fought, and survived in an ever-changing landscape. And where there were people, there were weapons. Archaeologists have uncovered traces of ancient warfare and hunting tools scattered across the desert, with relics dating back thousands of years. Stone axes, flint-tipped spears, and primitive swords have been found buried beneath the shifting sands, remnants of a time when the Sahara was a battleground for survival. But here's the frustrating part. Most of the weapons used back then were made of materials that didn't withstand time. Wood, leather, and fibers have long since decayed, leaving only the most durable pieces behind. What we do know is that different groups adapted their weaponry to fit their environment. Some of the earliest desert dwellers relied on sharpened stone blades and projectiles for hunting, while later societies, like the Garamantes, crafted metal weapons to protect their trade routes. Number 3. Lost cities. The Sahara has swallowed entire cities, burying them beneath centuries of shifting sand. Scattered across the desert are remnants of lost civilizations, once thriving trade hubs and settlements now hidden beneath dunes. One such site was rediscovered after being lost to time, proving that nature can erase even the grandest human efforts. Powerful desert winds, combined with the relentless spread of sand, have buried structures, roads, and entire communities, preserving their ruins beneath the surface. Without people to maintain them, these cities simply disappeared, waiting to be uncovered. Weapons tell the story of battles fought long ago. But what happens when entire civilizations vanish without a trace, swallowed by the sands? Number 2. Dinosaur fossils. If you thought the Sahara was just sand and scorching heat, think again. This desert is a goldmine for fossils, including some of the most incredible dinosaur discoveries ever made. The Sahara has unveiled entirely new species that rewrite what we know about prehistoric life. Take Paul Sereno, for example. This legendary paleontologist has been digging up Sahara secrets for decades, and his finds are mind-blowing. He's uncovered everything from a never-before-seen raptor to massive, razor-toothed fish that would have made Jaws look like a goldfish. These weren't your average birds. They were pterosaurs, some with wingspans wider than a school bus. Fast forward to today, and the shifting sands and brutal heat make it one of the most challenging places on Earth to hunt for fossils. Yet despite the odds, paleontologists keep uncovering jaw-dropping finds. One of the most famous discoveries is Spinosaurus, a massive predator that's believed to have been semi-aquatic. Imagine a dinosaur that swam, with a crocodile-like snout and a sail on its back. It's as wild as it sounds. Then there's Carcharodontosaurus, a carnivore that rivaled T-Rex in size and ferocity. These discoveries aren't just cool, they're reshaping our understanding of dinosaur evolution and behavior. The Sahara has preserved creatures from a world long before humans, but not everything buried beneath the sand is ancient. Some mysteries are far more recent and far more haunting. Number 1. Lady Be Good. During World War II, a U.S. bomber named Lady Be Good took off from Libya for a routine mission over Naples. It never returned. On its way back, the crew, disoriented by a sandstorm, overshot their base without realizing it. Thinking they were still over the sea, they bailed out into the vast Sahara, leaving the plane to fly on before crashing deep in the desert. For 15 years, Lady Be Good remained missing, until 1958, when oil explorers stumbled upon the remarkably preserved wreck. The mystery deepened when search teams found the crew's parachutes intact, but no immediate signs of life. Their remains were eventually discovered miles from the crash site, revealing that they had tried to walk to safety, only to be defeated by the unforgiving desert. A ghost plane lost to time, a crew that vanished into the sands. The Lady Be Good became one of the eeriest aviation mysteries of World War II. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.